At the time of his death, Isaiah Olugbemi had just won a national amateur boxing title, and he was the dad to a little 2-year-old boy. He was gunned down by his neighbor right outside of his Odenton townhome, and after pleading guilty in February, that killer was sentenced today.
Today in court, prosecutors played recordings of jailhouse calls between Giroux and his friends, where he said, "This is what happens when you expletive with my sleep schedule. You don't wake me up. I just did the state of Maryland an expletive favor. I still want my Medal of Honor." And he also bragged about how the victim was screaming for his dad.
The hearing today equal parts heartbreaking and horrifying. The court was shown surveillance video that showed Nicholas Giroux shooting his neighbor 15 times as Isaiah yelled out 8 times for his father. And then the court heard a series of recorded jail calls from July, August, and September after the murder, in which the defendant was heard mocking his victim, bragging about the incident, and laughing about it too.
A quiet Maryland neighborhood, families finishing dinner, porch lights flickering on, the ordinary hum of life. But on one late evening in Odenton, a sound tore through the night. Not the sound of laughter or music, but gunfire. By the time police arrived, a young man, full of life, full of promise, lay fatally wounded. His dream of becoming a boxing champion ended in a matter of seconds. What could drive a man to such ruthless violence over something so trivial? This is the story of a boxer, a neighbor, and a deadly obsession. It began with a feud. At first glance, nothing unusual. Neighbors clashing over loud music, a cookout that stretched into the night. On one side, a family celebrating. On the other, a man growing more and more restless, each beat of music gnawing at his patience. But his response was far from ordinary. Authorities say Nicholas Francis Giroux, age 37, began confronting his neighbors with increasing hostility. 2 weeks before the shooting, he allegedly produced a handgun during one of these disputes. He never aimed it, but the message was clear. What nobody realized then was that his anger was festering. On May 15, 2024, at 9:44 p.m., the silence was shattered. Witnesses would later recall the chilling moment. Surveillance footage confirmed it. Giroux approached 27-year-old Isaiah Olugbemi, a rising star in amateur boxing. Without hesitation, he raised his handgun and fired. Not once, not twice, 14 times. Even as Isaiah collapsed, Giroux wasn't finished. He returned moments later to fire 3 more rounds, as if determined to erase any chance of survival.
The prosecutors say the shooter, Nicholas Giroux, had been upset for years because he felt his neighbors were making too much noise, and that is why last year that shooter went over to the house with a gun and shot Isaiah Olugbemi 14 times. Today in court, we heard jailhouse calls in which the shooter bragged to his friends about killing the up-and-coming boxer.
Neighbors heard the chaos. Police raced to the scene. Isaiah was rushed to the hospital, but his injuries were catastrophic. The boxer, who had survived grueling matches in a ring, couldn't withstand the bullets of his neighbor. Giroux didn't run far. He returned to his nearby townhome, then attempted to flee in the van. But when questioned by detectives, his arrogance surfaced. He confessed without hesitation, even showing police where he had hidden the murder weapon. And then the chilling part. On recorded jailhouse calls, Giroux described the murder with no remorse, but with twisted pride. In one call, he sneered, "This is what happens when you F with my sleep schedule. You don't wake up." In another, he spoke of Isaiah's family, accusing them without evidence of selling drugs, insisting he had done the state a favor. He even claimed he deserved a Medal of Honor. To prosecutors, it was clear. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was a calculated act of cruelty.
Isaiah Olugbemi had dreams of being a professional boxer and also loved spending time with his young son. In May of last year, he had reached a big milestone, winning a prestigious Golden Gloves national championship. Olugbemi would be shot and killed by his neighbor just 3 weeks later.
The world lost a gem. I can tell you that without any doubt. It's the loss for the world because Isaiah had so much to offer and he was just cut short at the prime of his life.
The family's neighbor, 36-year-old Nicholas Giroux, later pled guilty to first-degree murder. Prosecutors say he had also threatened the family with a gun just a few weeks before that because he felt they were making too much noise. According to prosecutors, Giroux assumed with no evidence that the family was selling drugs. Court records show Giroux himself had several prior drug charges in Virginia. On the night of the murder, the victim's sister was filming a makeup video when Giroux opened fire outside.
When he became a father, he sought God even more because he just wanted to be the perfect father for Zayden. He was a great example.
Today in court, prosecutors played recordings of jailhouse calls between Giroux and his friends, where he said, "This is what happens when you expletive with my sleep schedule. You don't wake me up. I just did the state of Maryland an expletive favor. I still want my Medal of Honor." And he also bragged about how the victim was screaming for his dad.
This wasn't just a murder, this is a murder with a man filled with rage and hate in his heart. That's what's so tragic about this, to think that you're doing a favor because you're getting rid of somebody from another race or another origin. That's the very senseless and tragic part of this.
The tragedy deepens when you look at who Isaiah was. Born in New York, raised in Maryland, Isaiah was more than just a neighbor. He was an athlete, a father, and a dreamer. In high school, he thrived in football, wrestling, and track. But in 2021, he discovered boxing, and it changed everything. Training 3 times a day, he climbed rapidly through the amateur ranks. Just weeks before his death, he achieved a major milestone, winning the Golden Gloves National Championship in the 203-pound division. He was on the cusp of something great. His brother later said, "The world lost a gem. Isaiah had so much to offer, and it was cut short at the prime of his life."
Because he just wanted to be the perfect father for Zayden. He was a great example. He was a fighter. He never gave up anything Isaiah wanted to do. He did it.
The world lost a gem. I can tell you that without any doubt. It's the loss for the world.
27-year-old Isaiah Olugbemi's family members outside the courthouse today after the sentencing hearing. His sister and his uncle both delivered victim impact statements today, and after that, the killer of the 27-year-old amateur boxer and father of a 2-year-old boy was sentenced to life plus a consecutive 20 years in prison.
Even up until the last minute, Mr. Giroux was still showing his hatred and his animosity, and it's very disturbing. And I think it's a wake-up call that we have to not think of people by the color of their skin.
The hearing today equal parts heartbreaking and horrifying. The court was shown surveillance video that showed Nicholas Giroux shooting his neighbor 15 times as Isaiah yelled out 8 times for his father. And then the court heard a series of recorded jail calls from July, August, and September after the murder, in which the defendant was heard mocking his victim, bragging about the incident, and laughing about it too.
It's senseless. It's senseless. Great guy. I mean, I miss him. I miss him.
The defendant did speak in his own defense. He said, "I'll never forgive myself for what I've done. It was wrong." The judge wasn't buying it, though, and cited those comments in the recorded jail calls before sentencing him to life plus a consecutive 20 years.
In the end, justice was served. In February, Giroux pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. This past week, he was sentenced to life in prison plus 20 years. But for Isaiah's family and for the boxing community, the loss is immeasurable. What began as a petty dispute over noise escalated into an act of irreversible violence. A man obsessed with control destroyed not only his own future, but the life of someone destined for greatness. A father, a fighter, a dreamer. Isaiah Olugbemi's story is a haunting reminder of how quickly a spark of anger can turn into a blaze of tragedy, and how behind even the quietest doors in the neighborhood, darkness can be waiting. Alright y'all, man, there y'all have it, man. That's the crazy story. Hey, RIP to Isaiah, man. Hey, get in that comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Drillers and trappers, we outside trapping and drilling 247. Don't go nowhere. Watch that next video.